What is up, you YouTubers? It is I, Henry, coming to you today with an April 21st ban list. It's gone through a few tweaks. This is the Ritual Beast deck profile. It's gone through a few tweaks, and I've been testing it, and I like it. It's just been a really, really fun deck to play. I am going to a locals this Saturday, and I will be testing it there just to see how good it really is against the decks that they use there. I have no idea what they will be running typically because it's not the locals I normally go to. It's going to be a new challenge, so it should be fun. 3 Elder, the standard, because it's your double summon of the deck, and it speeds up the deck a whole lot, and it helps. It's just a great card, must be run at 3. Speeds up the deck, and it's your double summon. 2 Wen, you could bump this up to 3. I like it at 1 or 2, however, because if I run it at 3, I'd see my tamers way too much, and I'd see too many tamers in hand and no ritual beasts. This has happened to me a couple times in playtesting where I see 3 tamers, 2 traps, and no beasts. So yeah. But what Wen does is she grabs a ritual beast monster from your or a banished ritual beast monster, and that can be a tamer or a beast, so you could fusion summon or grab a tamer. I don't know why you grab a tamer. Maybe if you're trying to stall, you grab a tamer to stall. So yeah, but really, really good because she grabs from your banished. So if somehow a beast got banished and couldn't be returned to your field or grave, you have Wen to bring it back. I'm trying to center my cards. There we go. Oops, that's Conhawk, not a Lara. 2 Lara still. Lara has a nice 2,000 booty, and she grabs a ritual beast from your graveyard. Yes, Lara and Wen use up a beast special summon, but they're really good for when you need to just set up a fusion and go into a loop, like the Ulti Petalfin and Ulti Apelio loop, which I use a ton. You could cut Lara to 1 if you wanted to, if you didn't want to see your tamers too much because you saw them too much and not enough beasts, which happens to me a lot. But I realized that you do want to see your tamers, and if you cut it to 6 instead of 7 tamers, you would not see them enough and not get fusions off enough. So I am running a 3, 2, 2 tamer engine, and it works really, really well. And I enjoy the 3-2-2 engine with the tamers. Center these up. On to the actual beasts. 3 Conahawk. This is your gold Sark of the deck. It searches out your ritual beast spells, traps, and monsters. It's a really, really good card. It must be run at 3. It functions very, very well in the deck. Next, 3 Rempengu. This is pretty much the card you use if you don't have Conhawk in hand. Conhawk is preferable, but Rempengu works just as well. Conhawk banishes, Rempengu sends to grave, so it helps set up for a tech choice that I run and your Debris Dragon or Debris Dragon. I'm still running it in the April build, even though Tempest is banned, because you can still top deck it, and it's still a good card to run in the deck. Now, the ideal hand with this deck would be a Rempengu. I'll move these down some. A Rempengu or a Conahawk and an Elder. Preferably Elder and Conahawk, but if you don't have Conahawk, you go Rempengu. And this helps set up your hand or graveyard and helps go into that fusion loop of the Ulti Apelio and the Ulti Petalfin loop. So that's my favorite loop with the deck is the Ulti Apelio and Petalfin loop. Next, 2 just regular Apelio. You could bump it up to 3. I'm running it at 2 because of space, and what this guy does is he boosts your Ritual Beasts by 500 during either player's turn, so it's like a little trap. However, if you use the effect and you have Ulti Apelio and this guy on the field, and you attack with Ulti Apelio, due to his effect, he's unaffected by the boost, so he will go back down to 2600 attack. 1, Petal Fin, because 3 is way too much. 2 you could do, but I just don't want to see it in my hand too much. 1 is just right, because I just send it to the grave all the time for the debris. That's the only reason why I have it in the deck, is for the debris Chidori. But in desperate times, you could use its effect to bounce a card. So that's why you just run it at 1, because it's like a desperate move or a Xyz card. I'm getting off center here all the time. Speaking of debris, 1 debris, even though you don't have Tempest, it's still a good card to run the deck, because you can top deck it, or, yeah, you can top deck it. And since I run upstarts over E-Tellies, you run 37 cards, so it's easier to get to it. Then my tech choice that I mentioned earlier with Rempengus which Rempengus helps set up for, is Phantom of Chaos. This is what I'm running instead of Tempest, because Tempest is banned. If Tempest wasn't banned, I'd run Tempest. But what this does is you can banish a monster from your graveyard once per turn, and it becomes that monster's name, gets its effect, and attack, which is all the way over here. This is really good, because if you have a beast or tamer on the field already, and you have a beast or tamer, whichever you need, you can normal summon this, banish that, and it becomes that name. So say you have a beast on the field, okay? This is your beast on the field. And Phantom of Chaos is in your hand, and Elder is in the grave for some reason, like it got destroyed. Alright? So this is on field. You normal summon Phantom of Chaos, banish the Elder. Phantom of Chaos is now Ritual Beast, Tamer, Elder. Alright? It's now Ritual Beast, Tamer. And this is a Ritual Beast. So you can then Contact Fuse. Alright? So you Contact Fuse. And then you now have a banished Apelio and Tamer that you can decontact Fuse and get them back. So that's why this card is very, very good in the deck. And I like it. That's it for the monsters, guys. I believe it's 18 monsters. Sorry it took me 8 minutes to go over the monsters. But, I mean, Phantom of Chaos is just a good card. I had to explain it. And I love running it. On the spells, 1, Ritual Beast, Bond, only run it at 1 because anything higher is too cloggy. All you really use it for is to push for game and to fuse on your opponent's turn. So that's really the only reason why you run it. 1 Gold Sark, even though Tempest is banned, so you can't Gold Sark Tempest and get debris to hand, you can still Gold Sark other things to help set up for your ambush. Foolish, again, helps set up Grave for Phantom of Chaos, Debris, and your ambushes. Now, 1 card that I was not running, that I am now running in the April list, is Mass Change 2. Now, I'm running this because Divine Wind's actually a really good fusion, because it helps speed the deck by destroying a monster, you draw a card, and only 1 monster can attack per turn on your opponent's side of the field, which is really good, and it can't be destroyed by battle. It's a very, very good fusion. It also, however, helps set up your grave for other cards that you have, like Apelio, Phantom of Chaos, Debris, and your ambush, stuff like that. And it's actually it has fairly good synergy with the deck. I am still running the 3 upstarts over the E-Telly, because E-Telly takes up a special summon. The upstarts do not. Upstarts make it a 37 card deck. You can argue E-Tellys do too, but they take up a special summon, which I don't like. And upstarts actually help you get to other cards that you might need other than a tamer, and all E-Tellies do are get you a tamer. These actually help get you maybe a trap card you might need or something. So, plus I don't have E-Tellies, honestly. If I had E-Tellies, I may run 2 E-Tellies and then change this for something, but, I mean, I like 3 upstarts. They work well in the deck, because I somehow either go upstart, upstart, something, or upstart, 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 something. So I can, but you always it always ends up in deck thinning. Or, yeah, thinning out your deck, making it smaller, so you may draw the cards you need later on in the game. But, just a really, really good card in general. I like running it over the E-Tellies. 3 MST for back row. Vanity still hurts even though it's at 1. And your opponent will be siding Imperial Iron Wall probably if they have it in their side deck. So be prepared. Still needs to run at 3. Arguably you can run it at 2 inside the third, but I don't know. 1 Mind Control over D-Fisher, because D-Fisher, even though it really helps out the deck, it also hurts because you sometimes do need monsters in the grave, like a certain card called Petalfin. And every time I'd open up Repengu, I'd have a D-Fisher. Now, granted, you guys could argue you Repengu and then play D-Fisher, but I didn't always want my Repengu getting banished because I wouldn't have a Wen in hand, so I couldn't get it back. I don't know. I just decided to side the D-Fisher instead for the Mind Control, because the Mind Control works really well with Mass Change 2, especially when you side in 2 cards that I have in my side deck. But this works really well, especially in the mirror match. This is really good in the mirror match. This is just a really good card in general. It's taking up the space of Snatch Steal in the deck, honestly. 1 Book of Moon, because, well, Book of Moon, good against heroes, good against other stuff like that, staple card. Then 1 Regeki to get over problematic fields. Against Usenjus, I actually side out my Regeki since they always bounce back. For spells, I think it's 13? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, 13 spells, I believe 18 monsters. So that means there's, 9 traps. I cut Macro, and I sided Macro and D-Fisher. Yeah, you guys could main it, but I didn't want to. So on the traps, you still have your 3 Steeds and your 3 Ambush, because these just have to be run at 3 each. Steeds doesn't target. It's like the new Acarius attack, but you don't have to tribute a monster. Ambush just helps in every way possible. I mean, you special summon a Tamer and a Beast from your that is banished or in your graveyard, so it's pretty much the call of the deck. And if you want to push for game, you could fuse, play this, and then contact fuse again. And then if you had Bond, you could fuse with your fusion monsters into the last card and get game. So that is why you have to run Ambush at 3, and Steeds goes to 3 because it's your destructive card pretty much. Now onto the staples: 1 Solemn, 1 Bottomless, and 1 Compulse. Good 3 staple traps. It's a 40 card main deck. Nope, that didn't go very well. And I like how it runs. It's just my style of play more. Like I said, I will be testing it at locals. I do have a side and an extract to show you. But I'm debating whether or not to main deck. I'll get to it later. I'm debating on it, honestly. I don't know if I should, but there's a few cards that are in my side that I didn't have room to main and was too iffy on maining them. So yeah, but I'll do my extra before I do the side. So the extra really hasn't changed. 3 Pelio, Ultipelio. I mean, Star Eater of the deck, you have to do it at 3. 2 Petalfin, you only really need 2. I mean, yeah, you banish 1 with Rapengu, but you only ever use really 1 just to loop with it. So, yeah. 2 is right for the space, and 2 Ulti Kanahawks, because I banish 1 with Rapengu a lot of the times, and I only really need 1, because I just loop with the same one over and over again. So why run 3 if I just loop with 1? Now, for the last fusion, it's the Divine Wind, again, for the Mass Change 2. So Divine Wind for the Mass Change 2, it's a very, very good fusion. 1 Chidore, no explaining. Diamond Dire, no explaining. You have, like, beasts in the deck, so Ulti Apelio, so why not? 101, good card. Dweller, good card. Ragna against Kleeze. This deck has a really hard matchup against Kleeze. Photon Papillocrative, in case you face the rogue BA decks that are now going around since Tour Guide's limited. And yeah, there's probably not going to be a single BA player now. But I mean, it's not a bad card. You could cut, yeah. And then 1 GG Cowboy, because almost every time you pull it out, it will be game. This is probably one of my longest deck profiles. Wow. On to the side deck. 1 Thunder King. I was debating about main decking this card because you never really search from your deck to hand. It's always banish and then add that to your hand. So you could potentially main deck this if you wanted to. I'm siding the Macros and the D-Fisher because sometimes I did want Grave setup and I'd already have these on board and I couldn't get rid of them. So that really ticked me off. Plus, some decks aren't even phased by this. So why have this in your main if they're not even phased by it? Because you won't always know what you're playing against, and you'll play these even though you don't know what you're playing against. Like D-Fisher, activate. If you have this, activate. You don't even know what you're playing against, and it ends up they're not phased by it. So you're gonna side it out anyways. I side it out a lot half the time. Needle Sealing because Kleeze. I'm trying to think what else is there. Oh, I'm drawing a mind blank, but Kleeze, because, excuse me guys, hard matchup against Kleeze. I get really, really hard matchup for this deck against Kleeze. 2 Magic Drains. Magic Drain is actually a really, really good counter trap card. What this does is, if your opponent activates a spell card, and you activate this, I don't know if you can see that, but what it does is if your opponent activates a spell card, you can activate this, and they can either discard another spell card to negate this. But if they don't, that spell card they activated is negated and destroyed. So if you're playing like Kleeze or if you're playing Kleeze and you use this on their Scout or anything that they try to use in their Pendulum Zone, they have to get rid of a monster or a spell in hand to the graveyard. So they still end up going neg, which is good. And if you played against Nekroz on their ritual spells, they probably only have 1 in their hand, but if they happen to have another spell in their hand, lucky for them. But if not, they don't get a ritual summon, which is great. 2 Mind Drains, again, for the again, for Nekroz. This actually really, really hurts Nekroz. They can't use Bryo, can't use Colossus, can't use any of their discarding effect. I side primarily for Nekroz and Kleeze. Master of Strict for both Nekroz and Kleeze. Monsters can't be tributed. Spell Shattering and Fairy Wind. I'll put these down here. Spell Shattering and Fairy Wind because well, Cleese, um, whoops, Spell Shattering and Fairy Wind destroy face-up spells and traps, and they take damage. I'm also citing a Dark Law and a Koga, primarily because, hold on, let me clear this up so it's easier to see all this. Oh, it's late. Anyway, I'm citing these because if I'm in a match and they have attributes that I can take and fusion with them, I'm going to do that no matter what. Now, I am debating whether to put this in my main whether to put Dark Law in my main extra deck and take out the Pappy, because I have the Phantom of Chaos, and it's just a really, really good card. Now, for Koga, I'm debating on running Acid instead, but Necrons don't have a lot of back row, so why? There's a lot of thinking to this deck. It's a fun deck. It's very skill-based, not linear whatsoever, and you actually really have to get the hang of running the deck before you can do anything remotely good with it. Because if you don't know how to play it, you're screwed. You have to learn how to play it towards your playstyle, and if you can bend it to your will, it's an amazing deck, fun to play. I'm out. Peace!